Hello, this is the Invent with Scratch screencast. I'm Al Swigert, and in this episode, we're going to make a Ghostbusters game. So we have the Scratch Cat as our Ghostbuster, who has a proton pack that you can move around and aim, and then also fire to trap ghosts. And the object of this game is to set the trap, and then launch the trap and suck in all the ghosts at the same time. And if you fail to catch all the ghosts with that one trap beam, then you'll lose. So, there's a whole bunch of different things. I basically based this off of the old Ghostbusters movie with the Proton Pack that shoots out a beam. So you don't shoot the ghosts really so much as try to just trap them, and then you set the trap by pressing T and then shoot up the trap beam once. And here, oh, I didn't catch these two. I only caught 3, so I lost. Yeah, there's a new Ghostbusters movie also coming out next year in 2016. I'm really excited to see that. So let's go ahead and click on Create and start a brand new editor. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to click on the info panel for this cat sprite and change its name from Sprite 1 to Ghostbuster. So let's think about all the different parts we had in that program. So there were a lot of them. We had the cat that could move around, the proton pack that could aim and fire, and the ghosts bouncing around and setting the trap and then activating the trap and then seeing if you caught all the ghosts. Let's just take this one step at a time. So the first thing we need to do is add code that will make the cat move around when we press keys on the keyboard. So let's go to events right here, and I'm going to grab this when green flag clicked block. And we're going to need a forever loop that will constantly check over and over again forever if any of the keys are being held down. I'm going to use the WASD keys. Those are the WASD keys instead of the arrow keys. So W is up and S is down and A is left and D is right. So I'm going to need an if block for all 4 of those, but I'll just do this one at a time. So if, and then in the light blue sensing category, we can check if a key is being pressed down with this key pressed block. So if, say, the W key is pressed, we want this cat to move up. But we also want the cat to have that walking animation. So the cat comes with these 2 different costumes that we can switch back and forth between. So I'm going to go to the purple look section first, and then grab that next costume block, and then go to the dark blue motion category, and grab this change Y by block. You don't want set Y and you don't want change X, you want change Y by. And the Y coordinates will increase as you go up, so we want to have this change by a positive number. So let's just say change Y by 5. So let's test this out. I'm going to click on the green flag. You can see this is looping forever, checking if the W key is pressed, and since it's not doing anything. But when I do hold the W key, the cat moves up. I'm going to have to use the mouse to drag the cat back down. Nothing happens when I press the other direction, the other WASD keys though, so we need to add code to do that. And we can do a little shortcut. Right click on the orange if block and select duplicate. And that'll keep us from having to pluck all of these blocks individually. So I'm going to change this. Let's see. The down arrow key would be S. So when the S key is pressed, we need to change Y by -5. So that will move the cat down. And then I can right click on this topmost if orange block and select duplicate, and that'll duplicate everything underneath it. So we can use this for the left and right arrow keys. So let's see, when the A key is pressed, I want to move left, so I'm going to have to get rid of this change Y block and replace it with a change X block. So moving to the left is negative for the X coordinates, and moving to the right will be a +5. That looks pretty good. Let's test this out. I'm going to click on the green flag. I can move up. Oh, S is not right. Oh, that's because I have both of these marked as S. That's why it's moving both down and to the right. So I need to change this to D. Okay, test this out again. Click the stop button, click the green flag. Up works, down works, left and right. And I can hold these down as well. The animation stops because it's executing 2 of those next costume blocks, so that looks a little funny. because, you know, let's go to the next costume and then the next costume again, so it kind of looks like it's just stuck on that one animation. We can add some more code to fix that, but I'm just gonna leave that off for now. Okay, so we have this cat moving around. Let's go ahead and click on this paintbrush sprite. We're going to create the Proton Pack now, and this will be really simple. Just click on Convert to Vector, and I'm just gonna draw kind of a blocky looking, maybe like dark gray, and have this filled in. So I'll have maybe just like a rectangle here, followed by another rectangle, and like a connector piece. Try to zoom in to make this easier to see. Oh, that doesn't look too good. Let me try that again. Maybe have it like a tall, skinny piece there, and then have this connecting. And here's a little detail. I'm going to select the pencil tool so I can draw 3 green dots on the side. We're going to make these dots kind of thick, so I'm going to slide this over, and I'll just draw a dot here, and draw a dot here, and draw a dot here. And then here's another part. I'm going to draw a final black dot, just a really small one, just a little bit off to the side, maybe like right here, and I'll explain why I'm doing that later. But once you have this drawn, you don't want to draw the beam quite yet. This will be our the costume for when it is off and also charged. Oh, I should close this, press the stop button so when I type here it doesn't move the cat around. So we're going to have different states. So basically this Proton Pack can fire for a while and then it'll turn off after a little bit, but then just to keep the player from pressing space and firing it immediately again, we'll have it in an off, like a not charged mode. We can do that just by selecting duplicate on this costume right here. We're going to change this to off and not charged. And the way the player will be able to detect that or see that is we're going to use the paint bucket tool and change these green lights to red lights to show that it's no longer charged. So now we want to draw 2 more costumes that have the beam coming out of it. So go ahead and duplicate this one more time. And this is going to be tricky because we want the beam to be incredibly long, but we don't have that much space to draw it out here. So instead, let's just draw it out right here, and then we'll move that beam part over here. So I'm going to start off with these 2 costumes right here. I'm going to call this one on 1 and this one on 2. So the beam is going to be really simple. All it is just the line tool, and you want to make it look kind of like lightning, except, you know, sort of in a straight line as much as possible. So maybe like just a zigzag sort of thing here. Maybe add another yellow one coming out. Maybe orange also. And maybe another red one too, just for fun. Just so it sort of looks like fiery lightning shooting out. And then use the arrow select tool and start from this top corner and select the entire lightning bolt. And then you'll have to grab it by the center right here and move it as far over as you can. Now if you have some part sort of sticking off over the edge, then you can just grab this part and move it, either enlarge or shrink it down so that its edge is touching the Proton Pack. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing here for the second animation. And this will look slightly different, but that's good because that'll look like it's sort of like flickering lightning coming out of the Proton Pack. And here's an important part that you want to do to all 4 costumes. First, select the crosshairs so that we can set the costume center, and you want to set the costume center to that black dot on all 4 of these costumes. You can see the reason we did that after adding the lightning is because there wouldn't be enough space to move the lightning beam coming out of the Proton Pack if we set the costume center first. So we just drew this where the costume center is sort of, right there, and then we're able to move that, and then we'll just be able to set the costume center afterwards, right here on the black dot. You basically want the costume center to be in the same place on all of the costumes. So that's all our work for the drawing part of the Proton Pack. You can see if we click the green flag, the Proton Pack sprite just kind of sits there, and that's not what we want to have happen. We want this Proton Pack to sort of follow around the cat wherever the cat Ghostbuster moves. So click stop there. For the code for this Proton Pack, first I'm going to open up the info panel and rename it Proton Pack. When the green flag is clicked and the program starts, we just want this Proton Pack to always follow around the cat. So let's add a forever loop, and inside this forever loop, we're just going to have the Proton Pack go to the Ghostbuster cat. So now when we click on the green flag, you can see the WASD arrow keys cause the cat sprite to move around, and then this code causes the Proton Pack to follow the cat. So it kind of looks like the cat's holding it, or at least it's sort of hovering in front of the cat. Now we can add some more keys that can control the aiming of the Proton Pack. Let's grab another if block from the orange control section, and instead of the WASD keys, we can grab a key press block from the light blue sensing category, and we'll use the Q and E keys to rotate the Proton Pack. So if Q is pressed, and notice on the keyboard that's right above the A, so it's really easy to reach, then let's have it rotate counterclockwise. So go to the dark blue motion category, grab this turn counterclockwise block. And then we can do the same thing for the E key, and we can use that duplicate shortcut. Just right click on the if block and select duplicate. And we'll change this to E, and then get rid of that. We want the turn clockwise block. So let's test this out. Click on the green flag, Q and E. Oh wow, that's a little too fast actually, so maybe let's just have this turn by 6 degrees each time it goes through the loop. Yeah, that sounds good. Kind of looks like a lightsaber too. You could have this same effect for that if you wanted a Star Wars game. Okay, next we want the spacebar to activate the Proton Pack, and we only want it to shoot out temporarily. We don't want to make it too easy for the player to just have it permanently on. So let's go to the events section and grab this block that says when the space key is pressed, and that will turn on the Proton Pack and start firing it. So the first thing we want to do is notice that for the Proton Pack animation, we just want to have next costumes between costumes number 3 and 4. Right here, if we get this if-else block, we can say if the costume number is 3, then we want to set it to 4, and if not, then we want it to set it back to 3. So let's go to this green operator section and grab the equal sign, and in the purple looks category, there will be a costume number bubble that we can use. So we can put that there and say, okay, if it's costume 3, which remember is that first on 1 costume, then we'll want to set it to costume 4, which is the on 2 costume. And also in the purple looks category is this switch costume to on 2. And otherwise, we'll just switch it back to on 1. And the good thing about this is, even if the costume is set to one of the off buttons, that's still not 3, so that else block code will still run. So we want it to do this a lot of times, say like 200 times, over and over, just flickering back and forth between those 2 costumes. So let's go to the orange control section and grab this repeat 10 block. We want it to be much more than 10, let's say 200. And then we can switch that there. And then after it's done flickering, we also want to turn off the costume. So let's go to the look section and then grab that switch costume block. We can switch it back to the off and not charged costume. So let's test this out. Click on the green flag, You can walk around, you can aim the Proton Pack, and then when you press space, it'll turn into that shooting animation. So right now it's switching back and forth between these costumes, and it's repeating through this 200 times, and when it's off, it goes back to that not charged costume, and you can tell because the lights on it are now red instead of green. So we don't want it to instantly go back to being charged, because then the player could just press the space key again. So let's just go to the orange control section and add a small wait, like say wait 4 seconds with it in the not charged costume, and then after that we can switch it back to the charged costume. I can click on the green flag, and oh yeah, it's still on the not charged costume. So we need to set it so that at the very beginning of the game it switches to the charged costume. Off and charged. Okay. Click the stop sign to stop it, click the green flag to restart it. Okay, so now it's charged. You can tell it has the green lights. We have the beam coming out, and that loops 200 times, and then it's off. And it'll wait for 4 seconds. It's still running the script, so even if we press the space key again, it'll still say, well, I'm not going to run this code again until I'm completely done with the last one. And after 4 seconds, it turns back to green, so that's great. Okay, so we're done with the Proton Pack code. Now let's start adding some ghosts. So go ahead and click on this button here that says Choose Sprite from Library. This will be great because Scratch already comes with some ghost characters. So let's see, this Ghost 2 sprite seems nice. I'll just click OK there. Whoa, that is a huge ghost. Let's go to the costumes and shrink that ghost down. You can have the nice looking ghost if you want, but I'm just going to stick with the scary looking ghost. So have the arrow select tool selected, and then just drag over the entire ghost, and just shrink the ghost down. Yeah, because the smaller the ghosts are, the harder they'll be to hit with the Proton Pack. So that looks about a good size. Put it right there in the center. Okay, so what we want this ghost to do is simply just kind of just float around and bounce off the walls, sort of. So I'm going to go back to the brown events category, grab this when green flag is clicked, and a forever loop from the orange control section. Well, we should have the ghost sort of just facing in a random direction. So let's go to the the motion category. Let's grab this point and direction block, and this will be right before the forever loop, because we only want this to happen once. We can have the ghost just sort of facing in a random direction, and it'll go in that direction and just bounce off the walls. Although it looks sort of silly if the ghost is upside down, so let's set the rotation style to this left-right arrow style. This way now you can see if the direction is towards the left, the ghost is facing to the left and not upside down, or the ghost is facing to the right. So we want this to be pointing in a random direction at the very start of the program. So let's go to the green operator section. There's a pick random 1 to 10 block. And we want this to be a random number anywhere between negative 180 and positive 180. And the reason for that is, if you notice on this little bar that controls the direction setting, the very smallest direction would be negative 180, which is facing downwards. And then as you go clockwise up along here, it gets bigger and bigger, and then it reaches 0 at the very top, and it keeps getting bigger as a positive number until it reaches positive 180 back at the bottom again. So this will ensure that whenever we click on the green flag, the ghost will be pointing in a random direction. You can see that right here. So negative 80, negative 99, clicking on the green flag again, now it's facing 98. And in this case, we just want the ghost to move forward 10 steps, but then also towards the bottom of the dark blue motion category, there's a if on edge bounce. This is pretty nice. That ghost is moving a little bit too fast. Maybe just make this 6 steps instead. That's pretty good. And once we're done doing all the code for the ghost, we can just clone this sprite and have 5 ghosts bouncing around all at the same time. But first, let's just let's just write out all of the code first. So, what does this ghost do? Well, we want this ghost to just sort of bounce around, but if it's touching the Proton Pack while the Proton Pack is on and the beam is shooting out, we want the ghost to be trapped in that beam. So really, we don't want the ghost to be moving 6 steps all the time. only when the ghost is not being caught in the Proton Pack beam. So let's think about what that means. When the Proton Pack is on, that means that its costume number is either 3 or 4, and also the ghost is touching it. It doesn't matter if the ghost is not touching it while it's on, because the ghost can just fly around free. It's only when both it's on and the ghost is touching it. So let's go to the script right here. We're going to have to take this out. So let's add an if block. So let's think about this. The ghost is caught if two things are true. One, it's touching the Proton Pack. So in the light blue sensing category, we can grab this touching block and say it's touching the Proton Pack, but also the Proton Pack costume number has to be 3 or 4. So we can grab actually this operators. Let's just say it'll be greater than 2, because that'll cover both the 3 and 4 case. So if the costume number, well, we can't use costume number from looks, the purple looks category, because this is the ghost's costume number, not the Proton Pack's costume number. So if you want one sprite's code to reference another sprite's costume number, in the light blue sensing category, right here at the bottom, there's this complicated looking block that says exposition of ghost. You can just put that in there and just change this to be, instead of the ghost, the Proton Pack. Instead of exposition, there's all these different attributes of a sprite. We can just say the costume number of the Proton Pack. So we want this to be true and this to be true if the ghost is caught. So we're going to go back to the green operator section and grab this AND block. So if it's touching the Proton Pack and the costume number of that Proton Pack is greater than 2, which means it's 3 or 4, which are the on, beam shooting out of the Proton Pack costumes, then we know the ghost is caught. But we want this to be if the ghost isn't caught. So we're going to grab this not block right here. So this block right here represents the ghost being caught, and if we put it in the not, it'll say, oh, if it's not caught, then the ghost can move around freely. So let's try that out. So let's click on the green flag, and I hit the beam. Oh, and hey, and the ghost is caught. Of course, I can move around, and if I move off of the ghost, it no longer works. I can't fire. I have to wait another 4 seconds. Okay, fire. That's pretty nice. That's not exactly what happens in our game, where we can move around and move the ghost around also. But this is pretty good. So if it's not caught the ghost, then it skips this, and since there's no other code, the ghost just kind of stops and doesn't do anything. So we want the ghost to also move around. So if, say, the Proton Pack has caught the ghost here and the cat moves to the right, we also want the ghost to move to the right as well. So we're going to be able to do that with broadcasts, and broadcasts are a great way that you can have one sprite cause actions in another sprite. So in this case, whenever the cat moves, we can also have the ghost move as well. So let's go to the brown events category. And there's broadcast message and wait. We just need broadcast message. And we're going to add one of these to each of the directions that we move around. So when the cat moves up, we also want to broadcast a message that says move up. And when the cat moves down, we want to broadcast a message that says move down. It doesn't really matter what you have for the text here, as long as you're consistent. It helps to make it very descriptive of what the message means. So A, that's moving to the left. So we'll just name that move left. And then make a new message that says move right for the D key. So right now, whenever the cat is moving around, it's also broadcasting these messages. So moving right gets broadcasted when I move right, and move left gets broadcasted when I move left. Of course, that's not really doing anything because these other sprites don't have any code that react to those broadcast messages. So let's add some code to do that. In the brown events category, there's one block that's a hat block that says when I receive, move down. You can tell it's a hat block, kind of like the when green flag is clicked. That just says that you can't put other blocks on top of it. They won't snap in. So this will always be at the very top of a script. when I receive move up case, we want the ghost to move up. But remember, we only want the ghost to also move up when the cat moves up if the ghost is caught in a beam. And luckily, we already have a code that does that, so we can just grab this, right-click on the AND part. We won't need the NOT part. So right-click on the and duplicate that. And that'll give us our, if the ghost is touching the Proton Pack, and the Proton Pack's costume number is greater than 2, then this ghost is stuck in that beam and should also move up. Let's go to the orange control section. So when I receive move up, and if the ghost is caught, then the ghost should also move up 5 steps. So let's go back to the dark blue motion category, grab this change Y by 5. And then we'll do this again for the other 3 directions. So just on the brown when I receive block, right click it and select duplicate. And we can just change this to move down, then change Y by -5. I'm gonna have to scroll down, duplicate that again. And on move left, we want to have a change X instead of change Y. So moving left, change X by -5. Duplicate this one more time. And when the move right message is broadcasted, if the ghost is caught in the beam, we want to change X by 5 to have the ghost move right. So let's test out this code. Clicking on the green flag. Okay, caught the ghost. Oh yeah, and so I can move left and right and up and down. And so it looks like the ghost is caught in the beam. And then once the costume changes back to the off Proton Pack costumes, the ghost is then free, because then this part is no longer true. And also it's no longer touching the Proton Pack. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, technically the ghost only has to be touching any part of the Proton Pack costume, not just the beam, but even if it's sort of like touching just the non-beam part. And we could add code to fix that, but that's not that big of a bug. Okay, now we need the trap. So I'm gonna draw a new one. Click on the paintbrush button that says Paint New Sprite. My artistic skills aren't that great. I'm just gonna draw some simple shapes. Maybe zoom in here. Use the square and have a solid dark gray color. Let's see, in the movies it sort of looked like this box that had a handle sticking out of it. And it had like a yellow and black stripes on the top. So I'll select the line drawing tool and make black stripes. These will be kind of thick black stripes, so something that looks like this. That doesn't look too good, but that's good enough. I'm going to click on the select tool and select everything. This is really huge, so let's just shrink that down. Just grab the corner and shrink it. Oh, maybe not that small. Yeah, something like that. And move it more towards the center. Actually, I'll bring the center to the center of the trap by clicking on Set Costume Center and placing it, I don't know, right about here. You want to have that, you actually do want to have the costume center somewhere above where the beam shoots out. And the triangle trap beam will be a separate sprite. So let's click on Paint New Sprite again, and this will be really easy. First you want to just, first let's convert to vector mode. And you can tell you're in vector mode because all the drawing tools will be on the right side, whereas in bitmap mode all the drawing tools are on the left side. So convert to vector mode, and we're just going to draw a large triangle coming out here. And I'm going to make it a bright yellow color. So be sure to set the costume center to somewhere right at the bottom of the triangle. That looks good. Okay, so if we click on the green flag, oh yeah, we don't want this stuff showing up at the very start of the program, so let's go to the scripts for the trap and also the trap beam. Should really help to rename this. So trap and trap beam. Okay, so for the trap, when the green flag is clicked, we just want it to be hidden. So go to the brown events category. When green flag is clicked, just hide it. And you can go to the purple looks category. There's a hide block right here. And we want the same thing for the trap beam, and there's a shortcut where you can copy blocks to a different sprite. So I'm going to pick this up and just drag it and let it go over the trap beam. And it'll snap back over here, but now the trap beam will also have a copy of those same blocks. So if we start the program by clicking on the green flag, they aren't there. You can't see them. And that's what we want. So we basically want the cat to be able to move around and then press the T key to set the trap down, and then press the T key again to have the beam shoot up out and capture any ghosts. Let's think about what that means. So in the trap, we'll probably need to go to the brown events category and grab a when key pressed block. So in this case, whenever the T key is pressed. But remember, the T key is going to handle the trap being set, but also when the beam is being shot out. So we need to be able to differentiate between those two things. We can do that with a variable. Go to the orange data section and click on make a variable. And we'll have a variable named trap set. And it can be for all sprites. So at the very start of the game, we want to set trap set to no, because we haven't set the trap. It'll just be invisible. And now when T is pressed here, we want to check to see if the trap has already been pressed. If it hasn't been pressed, then we know, oh, okay, this code will have to set the trap. So let's go to the orange control section, grab this if block, and if trap is equal to no. So green operator section will have that equal block. We can go back to the orange data section to grab this trap set variable. So if trap set is no, then what we will do is have the trap sprite, right now it's hidden, but we wanted to move it to wherever the Ghostbuster is, kind of like how the Proton Pack follows the Ghostbuster around. So go to the dark blue motion category, grab this go to block, and click on the black triangle to set it to Ghostbuster. And then we want it to show up. So go to the purple look section and add this show block so it'll stop hiding. And then, since the trap is now set, we don't want the T key to then start moving it around. Like if we click on the green flag right now and I can press T, and that causes the trap to move to the Ghostbuster and then show itself. But if I press T again, it'll start moving around. That's not what we want for our game. So instead, I'm going to go to the orange data section and set trap to yes. So this way, when I click on the green flag at the beginning of the game, trap set is equal to no, and when I press T, it'll set the trap and run all this code, and then set trap to yes. So you can see it's yes right here. So even if I move the Ghostbuster around and press T again, since trap set is not equal to no, all of this code is skipped, so you can only set it once, and that's what we want for this game. Okay, so next time when we press the T key, we'll want this beam to shoot out. So let's go back to the trap beams code, and in the brown events section, grab this when key pressed block, because we'll have this also set to T. Now, unlike the trap block where this code runs if trap set is equal to no, we only want the beam to appear when the T key is pressed and trap beam is set to yes. So I'm going to grab this control block, this if block from the orange control section, and operators we can have that equal, and orange data section has this trap set. So if the trap set variable is equal to yes, then we want the beam to run all this code that causes it to shoot up and capture ghosts. So first we want this trap beam to also move to wherever the trap is. So in the dark blue motion category, we want this go to block here, and we'll set this to go to trap. And then we'll also want to set the size to 0. So we want the size, this trap beam triangle, to be really small, but then it'll start growing larger and larger and larger so that it seems to shoot up out of the trap. Go to the purple look section and it starts off small, so let's grab this set size block to 0. And remember, it's still hidden, so we've set up the position and the size of that beam, so let's have it show itself now. And next, we want to start increasing the size by 10% each time. But we want it to do this 10 times, because 10 times 10 is 100, and so if we execute this change size by 10 times, the final size will be 100%. So in the orange control section, grab this repeat block. There we go. So now we repeat this block 10 times. So after this repeat loop is done, the size will be back at 100%. So I'm going to put that inside there. But also, you know, just to make this kind of flashy, let's go back to the purple looks section. We can have this change color effect by 25. And we can also put this inside here. And that'll make it sort of start flashing around. And I want more than just one change color effect. So I'm going to get another repeat block and put this inside the other repeat block and just say, I don't know, 3 times. So each time it changes the size, it runs this change color effect block 3 times itself. So we can see what that looks like. I'm moving the cat around, pressing T. Whoops! I only pressed it once, so it shouldn't have showed up. Wonder why that happened. So when I press the green flag, trap set is no, and I press T. So I think what's happening is that since pressing the T key once still runs both of these scripts, what's happening is that this script runs first, and then trap set is equal to no, so it runs all this code and then sets trap set to yes. And all of that happens before this even starts, so then when it runs this, trap set is equal to yes here, so then it starts shooting out the trap. So I'm going to add a small delay. Just grab this from the orange control section, a wait block. Let's see if maybe waiting for just 0.1 seconds is good enough. So I'm going to click on the green flag. Yeah, okay, and so I press T once and that just made the trap appear. And when I press it again, then it makes the beam shoot up. So, oh yeah, we're going to want this beam to also hide itself afterwards. But let me just have this change color effect a while it's still at full length. So I can just duplicate this repeat block, and maybe instead of 3, just have it do it 30. So this repeat block handles the triangle beam shooting out and growing in size, and then this one just makes it flash around for a bit. And then after that, we'll just go to the look section and have it hide itself. And then, just so that we can't have the trap go off again, we'll change that trap set variable by setting trap set to, I don't know, used. So let's test this out. Click on the stop sign and click on the green flag. So I can move around, I press T once, and that sets the trap. And then when I press T again, it shoots out and just flashes around for a bit. That's pretty good. You notice that it didn't really catch the ghost. Okay, so now we need to add code that it will catch the ghost, and we can probably add that just to the ghost directly. I'm going to rename this from Ghost2 just to Ghost. And so we're going to need some more code. Oh, I'm running out of space here. I'm going to click on this tiny triangle right here to shrink the stage and enlarge the code space. I'll just move this stuff out of the way for right now. So just like it checks if it's touching the Proton Pack, we're going to need an if block that checks if it's touching this triangle trap beam. So go to the orange control section and grab another if block. And then we want to check if it's touching, so sensing category has this touching block, if it's touching the trap beam. We don't need to do any sort of fancy costume checking or anything like here, because we know this trap beam will be hidden until it's shooting out. So it's enough just to check if it's touching the trap beam. And in that case, we want this ghost to just sort of disappear because it'll look like it'll be caught by that beam. So there's a nice little effect in the purple looks category called pixelate. So we can grab this change color effect, and instead of color, let's use the pixelate effect. We want it to run multiple times, so I'm going to need to go to the control category and grab this repeat block. So repeat this change pixelate effect. We only need it to go maybe, yeah, I guess 10 is pretty good. Change pixel effect, and not that much. Just change it by 10 each time. And so it'll get more and more pixelated, and then after that we can have it hide itself. So grab a hide block and put it after that repeat loop. We also want to keep track of how many ghosts are caught. So we know that if it's touching the trap beam, this ghost has been caught. So we need a variable that will keep track of how many ghosts entirely have been caught. So let's go to the orange data section, click on make a variable, and we'll just make a variable called ghosts caught. And make sure that this is for all sprites, and click OK. So at the very beginning of the game, when the green flag is clicked, we're going to want to set ghosts caught to 0. And then right here, we can change ghosts caught by 1. And since we don't want this ghost to be bouncing around, it'll be hidden, but we can just stop this script. So let's go to the control category and grab this stop block. We don't want it to say stop all, because that'll stop the entire program. We just want it to say stop this script. So this will stop the forever loop so that it's not moving around and spending the CPU time just checking to see if it's touching the Proton Pack and running all of this code. So let's test this out. I'm going to click on this triangle to bring that back and click on the green flag right now. Okay, so Ghost is wandering around. I can aim the Proton Pack. I'm going to set the trap first. Okay, I've caught this ghost. Oh, it got out. Nice. So as soon as that trap beam sprite touched the ghost, this condition became true. So then it just started doing that pixelate effect and then just hid the ghost. And then it incremented this variable by 1. So it went from 0 to 1. And the last thing you have to add to the ghost code is that the ghost hides itself when it gets caught. So at the start of the next game, we want the ghost to show up again. So click on the purple looks category and grab that show block and add it right there. And once we have all the code for the ghost completed, we can just start duplicating the sprite. So right click on the ghost and keep hitting duplicate until we have 5 ghosts. So now when we click on the green flag, they all have the same code, so they're all just bouncing around. And we can catch as many as we want with them. So I'm going to press T to set the trap, and then try to catch them in the beam. Press T one more time to get them. Oh, I just missed one. So next we should add something so that if we catch all the ghosts, it shows a congratulations you win message, and if you don't get every single ghost, then it says you lose. So we're going to click on the paintbrush sprite and go to vector mode so that all the tools are on the right, and click on this T for text. And maybe in a green font we'll say, oops, I'm going to click on the stop right there. Say, you caught all the ghosts. You win. And just add some spaces to put that sort of in the center. That looks nice. Just select all of that. Move it here, maybe make it a little bit bigger. Yeah, that's good. And then I'll click on the paintbrush sprite again to make a new sprite. Also go to vector mode. And with the text tool, I'll use a red font for you missed some ghosts. And a few spaces to center it, you lose. And sad face. Well, that looks pretty good. I'll also make that text a little bit bigger there. And in the screen, just put it sort of right in the center also. So at the very start of the program, we don't want these sprites to show up. So let's just go to the brown events section and grab when the green flag is clicked, and just go to the purple look section and hide it. We want the same thing for the lose message also. So I'm going to do a little shortcut. I'm going to pick up this entire script and then just drag it over that sprite, and that block will snap back here, but also now in the other block that code has been copied here. So let's go back to the trap beam code. So after this beam is stopped, we can then add an if block that checks if all 5 ghosts have been caught, and that'll happen if ghosts caught equals 5. So I'm going to go to the orange control section, grab an if. We want if ghosts caught variable equals 5. So in the green operator section, I have an equals block, and in the data section, I have ghosts caught equals 5. Oh, actually, tell you what, we don't want if, we want if else, because you either win or you lose. So go back to the orange control section, grab an if else block, move this in here. So if ghost caught equals 5, you win. We're just going to broadcast a message to tell the win sprite to show itself. So in the brown events category, I'm going to grab this broadcast block and say new message, you win. And then grab another one for the else that says broadcast, you lose. So a new message that says you lose. Okay. Then we can just have these sprites listen for those messages. So when I receive you win for the win sprite, we can just have it show itself. So purple looks section has the show block, and then that'll be the end of the game. So go to the orange control section and just grab this stop all block. And we'll want the same thing for the lose sprite. So I'm going to go back to the win sprite and just copy this over here, except the lose message will show when the you lose broadcast is broadcasted. Okay, so let's try this one more time. I think this is the entire game. I'm going to set the trap right here. Maybe if I catch the ghost like right here. Yes! Oh, I missed some ghosts. Oh, I think I accidentally deleted the ghost caught set to 0 sprite, so it was already set to something else. I'm sorry about that. Let's ghost caught. Try this again. Okay, beam and trap them. Yes, I won. Now I'm going to try to lose just to test if that actually works. So I've caught 2 of them. Oh, and I missed some. So and then it shows that you lose. So that's the entire game. That says a lot of different things. I'm really glad that you stuck with it. You have this basic cat moving around with a walking animation, but also broadcasting these messages that tell the ghost to check if they're caught, and if they aren't caught, they can just move around normally. But if they are caught, they're stuck. But then also, if they receive these broadcasts and they're caught, then they'll also move in the same direction as the Ghostbuster. And then pressing T once to set the trap, and pressing T again to launch the trap with this color changing effect. And then also having the Proton Pack moving around and having different costumes for its different animations. This is a pretty intense game. We could just change the background to maybe make it a haunted house sort of thing. Let's see what Scratch has. We can say, like, maybe it's a haunted castle. Or maybe it's a haunted bench with a view. Maybe, let's see how that looks. Oh, yeah, that's not that scary. Let's change it back to something else. Let's just say maybe you have ghosts in your bedroom and you want to ghost bust those ghosts. So this is pretty good. You can just make any changes you want to this game, and it's all just done with this code. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment in the comments section or just email me directly. But either way, thanks for watching.